What tight end George Kittle had to say on his quarterback. Sorry, Marcus.
I mean, he looks like the guy, which is really nice. He's in the building every day. He's the same guy every single day. He's consistent. He's incredibly competitive. It's fun seeing him like yell at guys when they don't hit the route depth, if they have the wrong landmark. Like he's taking control of the offense and making it his. You know, it's Kyle and Kyle's calling the plays, but Brock's like getting guys to do what he wants them to do, which is really fun to see.
Dan, can Purdy keep up this style of play long-term? Defense is going to get more film on him, maybe figure some things out.
It's rare to find a quarterback that is this aggressive with the football and in many ways putting the football in harm's way, in a good situation, this consistently and not giving the ball away. Brock Purdy is as aggressive a young quarterback, in many ways a quarterback that we have in the league, but he doesn't throw the ball away. One, the ball comes out of his hands before guys are open so consistently. This is an unbelievably difficult throw. The ball is out of his hands before Brandon Ayuk gets to the top of his cut. You have to be so confident in your ability to place that ball in the right spot. More often than not, guys are waiting for people to get open because they don't want the ball to be in question when it's in the air. He sees this rotation. Again, playoff game matters the most, big moment. He's got to throw this football in between two defenders. If this ball's off by an inch or two,
hell of a throw, boy.
It's going to get tipped up in the air. RC,
That's a hell of a throw, dog.
He's going to pick that ball off. So it's fascinating. I do think it's really interesting to know or to watch a guy that is so aggressive and so push the envelope with his willingness to put the ball in harm's way. But he doesn't turn the football over. He's thrown like 15 interceptions in over 650 attempts.
Yeah.
That's rare. If that keeps going, what they pay him, we will not have any qualms about. But that's something to pay attention to for Brock Purdy individually and for that team.
Dio, legit in my notes, I was like, continue to limit turnovers. Like, to me, that's his best characteristic, especially in this offense. The one way you beat San Francisco is if the quarterback gives the ball away, and he does not. So that's the one thing when we talk about him improving. And I love what George Kittle just said, because I think that's the progression. The progression is, and we throw the word out there a lot, leadership. It's about taking ownership. It felt like at times last year, and we talked about it being so many other guys that Brock Purdy just had to kind of play his role and exist. Well, we know how the heat is turned up on a quarterback. RC mentioned it a little bit more. Boogie mentioned it. A little bit more film. You understand how he plays. Now it's going to be his continuation of not only his maturation at quarterback, but his playmaking ability like it came out in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think he'll have to have more of that as we go forward, because more will be asked of him than it was this particular year, like we shouted and fought about all season long.
All right, so let's think about this. His A.J. Brown isn't coming. His Stephon Diggs isn't coming. When you look at the people that have surrounded Brock Purdy early on in his career, they're not going to go out and get better wide receivers, better running backs to surround him with to help him take that leap like we saw Josh Allen take, like we saw Jalen Hurts take. And when we watch him play ball, he processes extremely fast. He adjusts extremely fast. We saw playmaking ability in Detroit. So my question to you is, Dan, if he's going to take the next step, what is it that he acquires going forward that he doesn't already have?
Nothing. There's every attribute that you need and or want to have your elite high-level win because of quarterback he has. The question for Brock Purdy is going to be, can he do it over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years? But there is no leap to be had. He took the leap from the first time he stepped on the field.
Right, and so that's what I'm wondering. When I watch Patrick Mahomes now, I see Patrick Mahomes as a better processor, as a better leader, as someone who understands defenses at a much higher level than he did early on in his career when he was crazy good then. So for me, it's what does Brock Purdy do? What does he change? How does he affect change on his team in a different way than he already has to beat those elite level guys that we're talking about?
Go, Marcus.
DORC real quick. And it wasn't that he was bad in this stretch last year, but as simple as this, figure out a way to win 2 or 3 of those games when you're not full boat. When you don't have all your guys.
Yep.
And it has nothing to do, like, on his play. We talked about the play he made to Ayuk at the end of the game. They could have won. They missed the field goal. But early on, 1 through 4 quarters, can you ascend to be that guy where it's not with you, but you can come out on the other end and get it done?
Okay. So I really want to talk about this because they brought up a few points, and I'm glad that Spears just said that at the very end because I actually want to dispel that. But first, I really want to point out what Orlovsky was talking about. And when we look at some of those plays that Brock Purdy was making, these highlights are the perfect representation as to how you can dispel this idea that Brock Purdy is only good because of the players around him and even Shanahan. Don't get me wrong, the players around him absolutely help tremendously. And so is Shanahan, just from either his scheming or just the things that he's telling him and teaching him and helping him process some of these things. But his throws, his accuracy, his processing speed, and his decision making is for real. It's like you can't just say that this is because of his system, because that's not how systems work. You can't put Justin Fields into this system and just have him suddenly be able to process better, have him anticipate, the play better, where the wide receiver is going to be, the confidence to throw the ball before the play has even fully developed or before the wide receiver is even open, having that confidence. So, it matters so much. And this is what Brock Purdy's doing tremendously well. So, I'm just trying to get up to these highlights. Like, this is not a system. This is not because of, the players being so amazing. Look at some of these highlights. Look at the processing speed. Look at the tight windows. Look where he's throwing it and when he's throwing it. His vision. And please tell me how this is all just because of the brilliance of the team around him. It's a perfect pinpoint throw that he needed to process very quickly and have the confidence to throw. So that's why I kind of take issues that everyone just wants to act like Brock Purdy is just some scrub. He's like a backup quarterback, but he's on a stacked team, and now you're just you're just going to be able to win because of that. It's not accurate. But again, I do get he obviously benefits from being on a great team, and this is where I want to get to what Marcus Spears has to say, though, where he said he has to prove that he has to be able to win the games, without anyone else, or without being stacked. And I think that's not fair, okay? Because certain quarterbacks have certain skill sets and different physical capabilities that it makes it easier or harder to win, whether or not your roster is stacked or has all these extra weapons. Josh Allen is a physical beast. He can literally physically put guys on his back and just barrel through, the defense and get first downs. Brock Purdy doesn't have that. Lamar Jackson can rip off a 60-yard touchdown run at any moment, right? Brock Purdy doesn't have that. Patrick Mahomes, also obviously a physical freak, escapability, can extend the play for 45 minutes and then throw a bomb, okay? It's not fair just because some of those players have those very specific skill sets that it means that Brock Purdy is now not good enough because he's more dependent on the team around him. Because Brock Purdy can make way better decisions than Lamar Jackson can, than maybe even Josh Allen. Even though those quarterbacks can do more than what Brock Purdy can do. They have more tools in the toolbox, but you can maybe make the argument, hey, Brock Purdy processes the game way faster than, say, Lamar Jackson. And again, I'm not saying that this is accurate. I'm just, just trying to use just to make visual examples. And so it's not fair, from my viewpoint, to bring down Brock Purdy too much. Now, does that mean that Brock Purdy has to be a little bit more open to maybe taking more team-friendly deals to make sure that he can get the team around him? Sure, because I think it's very similar with a Tom Brady. Tom Brady also lacked that ability just to make anyone work. You saw him getting very frustrated when his teams weren't as good and him screaming and getting mad, and that's why he ultimately left the New England Patriots. He didn't feel like he had the weapons around him. And then that's why when he went to Tampa Bay, he had weapons, but he still made sure that he got Gronk, that he got AB. Like, he still knew he needed other weapons. And then that final season when he had no run game at all and no reliable wide receivers, it was like a disaster. He couldn't do anything. So, and that doesn't mean that Tom Brady's less than, obviously. So I just think it's unfair to say that in order for everyone to finally respect Brock is that he has to do more with less. And not all quarterbacks are situated to do that. Yes, Josh Allen has been able to do more with less, but at the same time, when push comes to shove, when he needed his wide receivers to catch those balls, they didn't. And because of that, they lost. There's only so much that Josh Allen could do. One individual quarterback can only carry a team so much. And don't act like Patrick Mahomes has ever had to really, truly carry the Kansas City Chiefs. When you have a cheat code of Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill in the beginning, a great run game, a great offensive line, an elite defense, Andy Reid's scheming and game planning, like all of those things matter. So this idea, I just really want to stop at this idea that a quarterback is just always, needs to consistently show that he can win despite perfect circumstances. Now that is a thing that you want to be able to have in your quarterback, right? Patrick Mahomes has proven to do that. Josh Allen has proven to do that. Lamar Jackson has proven to do that, right? It does matter, but that's not necessarily a defining factor into what can make a quarterback have your respect or not. If you want to say that that's what separates a quarterback from being elite versus not, I'm open to that. But like I said, I don't know if Tom Brady necessarily showed that level of ability necessarily. It depends on how you want to define that and how you want to break down someone carrying the team, because it's not like Tom Brady played with stacked teams forever, but he played with players that caught the ball for him, right? Like Tom Brady, when we really think about a player that has to put a team on his back these days in modern football in 2023, 2024, 2025 now, moving forward, we think of to me, it's the top three guys right now. I'm not saying the top three quarterbacks, but the top three physical quarterbacks of Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. It's that ability that if you need to barrel through a 300-pound lineman, you can do that. If you need to rip off a 30, 40-yard run, you can do that. If you need to scramble for 45 seconds and then throw like a submarine throw, 30 yards down the field, you can do that. That's these days how we define someone being able to put a team on their back and do that. And again, that's all great and valuable and important, but it can only go so far, as we've seen with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. The difference isn't with Patrick Mahomes being able to do those things. The difference between Patrick Mahomes or the Kansas City Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens is all the other pieces. Lamar Jackson is not bringing down the Ravens. Josh Allen is not bringing down the Bills. It's all the other pieces, whether it's coaching, defense, offensive weapons, O-line, defensive line, whatever it may be. Again, it's not to say that Patrick Mahomes isn't a massive, isn't technically the biggest reason, or isn't at moments in games a difference maker. Patrick Mahomes still has to make that perfect throw when asked to do it, but it's all the other complementary pieces that put Patrick Mahomes in that position to be able to now kind of get them over the hump. Whereas the other teams like the Ravens or the Bills, those quarterbacks have to do everything they can just to put their teams in a position to win. And now it's like, okay, I need some of the other guys to kind of like take over here, and they can't. Those to me are what the difference is. And so what Brock Purdy does is that he puts his team in a position to win every single game that he's in. And it's like, at that point, what else can you ask for? So now the rest is the defense. The is on the defense, is on some of the offensive weapons, whatever it may be. So I just think that Brock Purdy ultimately gets unfair criticism. I get if you still want to be patient. I get if you want to say that he's not a top 5, top 3 quarterback. I get all those things. But at the very least, I think the narrative of him just being like a system quarterback and he's only good because of the players around him, I think a few of those highlights proves that is completely inaccurate, and it's most likely coming from people who are not actually watching those games, and they just see a quarterback that doesn't look super flashy, that's not like super cool and running a million miles an hour and having these like, big highlight throws like a Patrick Mahomes or ripping off a run like a Lamar Jackson, and they say, oh, the 49ers have Shanahan, he's a good coach, and oh, they have Ayuk and Kittle and all these guys. And then they just jumped to the conclusion, yeah, Purdy's really not that good of a quarterback. He was also drafted last, and I didn't even know who the heck Purdy was until, his 8th game of the season. Actually, some people probably didn't even know who Purdy was until the following season. So I just think that, if you actually really watch the games and see how they unfold, you can't say that Purdy is just there and he's kind of being carried by the rest of this team. I just don't think that's a fair assessment. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think Brock Purdy's, criticism or the weight that the expectations they put on him in terms of like that he has to ball out despite who's around him, like just a general conversation around Purdy? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Let me know in the comments below. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.